Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about the war within and how I plan to make millions with alchemy specifically. This is the first of many videos where I plan to go over a couple different ideas, a couple different plans of what I want to do with professions in the war within. There's going to be leveling guides, there's going to be more build guides, of course, and all of that is coming. So if that sounds interesting at all to you, make sure that you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel with all the notifications on, because then, there's a higher chance you'll see the next one. But anyway, today we are talking about alchemy, okay? Alchemy has, just to give you guys an idea, if you haven't seen anything around it, we have transmutes again, transmutations. That is something that is, coming to stay, but there's a new version of it. Additionally, we also still have experimentations like we did in Dragonflight. And that is some of the ways that you can gain new recipes. But the other new, what can you call it, like system in the profession is Thaumaturgy or Thaumaturgy, or however you want to pronounce it, depending on where you're from and all that. But either way, this is you use 20 materials of your choosing, and then you can turn that into other materials, and you can potentially discover new recipes. Now, why is this important? And here's the thing, right? Thaumaturgy goes really well together with transmutations. And if you, like me, like alt armies, you might think, okay, well, considering the fact that transmutations are going to have a daily cooldown, and by the way, this is fully, just to show you guys, this is a fully maxed out profession, right? And you still have a 24-hour cooldown. So you will not be starting with 8 available crafts, and the actual cooldown will be a little longer, and the rewards that you get are also going to be a little different. But here is my plan. I will be focusing on Thaumaturgy, and then, of course, Alchemical Mastery. The 3 first things that I will be going for is Thaumaturgy, Gleaming Transmutation, and Transmutations by itself. Because when you learn this particular skill point here, and you'll get access to one tree once you, reach 25 skill points in the profession. So that's going to be very, very early on. You'll get access to this ability, right? This recipe. Once you have access to that, you can unlock the ability to also receive additional transmutation when performing acts of thaumaturgy, so it works well together with transmutations. But what we're really looking for is the sub-specialization of your choice. We need to get to at least here so we can learn Gleaming Transmutation. And this is before we use any of our cooldowns. Granted, when we start out in a new expansion, when you learn a profession, you start at 0, right? So you have quite a lot of time to figure that out. And you learn your second sub-specialization of your choice right here. It's 5 points per, skill point. Well, major, minor skill point, whatever you want to call it. Like these milestones. So you want to put at least 25 points into this here particularly, because then you'll unlock the access to these two. When we are up here, we'll be able to also get Core Weight Catalyst, but that doesn't really matter for the purposes of what I want to do. And then we want to put 20 points into here. So once you've put 25 points into here, you go next, you put 20 points into Gleaming Transmutation. The reason why you want to do this is because you get access to Gleaming Transmutation. And this is a byproduct of transmutes, and it's going to be used for 2 things. Blasphemites, which are the new diamond in the new expansion. So this is for unique gems that jewel crafters will be using, and Gleaming Chaos. Gleaming Chaos will convert this byproduct that you have into an assortment of random materials, and this will be everything the war within. Pretty much all, not all materials, but almost all materials, and you'll see, I'll show you guys here in a second. So you want to max this out because you'll be able to increase your chances of receiving Gleaming Transmutation when you're doing Thaumaturgy or Transmutes. And you want this chance to be as high as possible. And when you actually get to 20, that's when you learn Gleaming Glory, which is going to be this one for Blasphemite. So you start out by having this one, so as soon as you get here, you can actually start doing this, okay? So that's really important. Now, secondly, in the transmutation tree, or a transmutation tree, there's a lot of weird pronounced words here. You empower your Philosopher's Stone, increasing the maximum number of transmutation charges you can accrue by 2. So you'll start out with 6, and then you can increase it up to 8, right? And which you obviously want to do. This will increase your skill points, your resourcefulness, and it'll also let you, what do you call it? Empower the frequency, which means it lowers the cooldown of how long they take to recharge. So this is going to be very, very important, right? And this one says empower your Philosopher's Stone, increasing the maximum number of transmutation charges you can accrue by 5. So eventually this will be an additional 5. So you say, okay, well, this is going to be 2 and then an additional 5. So you'll get 7 in total, which is, you need this. You absolutely need this. So the rest of this, right, you want to actually max this out, because you'll see here, your first act of Thaumaturgy each day yields a significant amount of extra transmutation, and that's going to be this one, right? And also some of the green versions, but they don't matter as much for the main purposes of what we're doing. So you want to do this as well. So in total, you have about 50 and 55, 105 skill points. And with all your first craft opportunities when you're leveling the profession and the one-time treasures, which there are 8 of, you'll get another 24. You won't be able to, day one, this might be a little hard to reach, but that's what I plan on working towards. That's what you want to do. Now, this will also increase what you get out of your Thaumaturgy, so getting this up is really important. It's really, really important. Depending on how fast you're doing your transmutation or your alchemy, right? Depending on how much time you have for your professions, whether it's an alt or whatever, you might want to focus on being able to stack up higher proc chances. So going for transmutation first, because it increases how many charges that you can collect. So you're not wasting time because you don't have time for it. If that makes sense, then yeah. Basically, when you're leveling professions, if you know that you won't have like a lot of time, it's probably better to max out transmutation first before you go for Thaumaturgy, right? To bring that all the way up to 55. But again, this final point will increase how much of the transmutation byproducts that you get each day, so it's also really important to get. Now, these are the ones that are also good, but they're not as good as these ones over here, so we're not going to be focusing on them immediately. Obviously, you'll get access to more of these trees as well. These are not as important, but Alchemical Mastery, once you've gotten these 3 maxed out, you can decide whether or not you want to go for these or you want to go for Alchemical Mastery, because this will increase your skill, right? And when you're doing your transmutes, you want your skill and resourcefulness, as you can see here, and a couple there. You're gonna get a couple other things and some multicraft and things like that. So you can decide that you want to go for Alchemical Mastery, or if you want to go for the other ones here, that's going to be pretty good, because you can see here you'll get access to other different transmutations, and you kind of want to do that, but at the same time, I am personally mostly focused on Blasphemites and Gleaming Chaos, because every single one of these other transmutes will give different varying materials, and depending on your goals, this might be good if you're doing flasks or files or stuff like that in the profession. But for me and how I plan to make gold, I'm going to be using Gleaming Glory and Gleaming Chaos. Now, this is something that you will actually have to get when you're doing your Thaumaturgy, because this is the way that you can actually get a lot of your transmutations. Some of it requires that you have to have your skill points leveled up, but it's not a big deal, because once you've actually, you can see here that performing acts of Thaumaturgy now grant Gleaming Transmutation. You want to get here before you start doing a lot of your Thaumaturgy, so you can see why this particular tree is really, really, really important. And you can see here, learn Gleaming Chaos, which allows you to transmute Gleaming Transmutation into a random assortment of materials. This is the one that you absolutely want. So once you have those two, you'll be able to cycle between these. Now, it's really important because when you get this final point, every time you log in, and this will be with the daily reset, you can take a random assortment of materials, and this can be any materials, right, from any profession. It doesn't have to be what you have in alchemy. It can be any material that is listed here, and you can just take that and use your transmute, right? You can do your first act of Thaumaturgy, and it will give you a random, you know, depending on what you're actually transmuting, it'll give you different stuff. I can show you here that actually let's see, we'll just do a couple more of these so you guys can see what else we can do. But with these materials, because we're gonna get, as you can see, we got another ominous transmutation here. You can actually take these materials that you get as a byproduct, unless you sell them, you'll be able to take those and actually use them for something like this, which is pretty good. We just need to make sure that we actually get enough so we can use 20 of them. We're almost there. Some materials you can't use. You can see here we have 26 weaver cloth, and it doesn't let us use weaver cloth in particular, which is fine. That's not really that big of a deal. Close this up and open it up again, just so we can see. All right, it's almost there. But you can see here we can also use some of those materials that we get. And the rest you can just get rid of or sell or do something else with, because that'll be fine. But you can see here, 24 storm dust. We'll be able to use this instead. The recipe difficulty will be a little different depending on how much you actually get back. But it's still good that you can take materials that you use and recycle them into other ones. But the most important thing for Thaumaturgy is the first one that you do every day. Because that is the one that will be granting you Gleaming Transmutation. You can only do that once a day. And the other way of getting it is doing transmutes, right? But, again, these transmutes have a cooldown. And they all share a cooldown. So it's really important that you don't go around just using random ones. Whether or not, I mean, you can kind of choose yourself what you want to do, but you don't want to use so many so you can't do Gleaming Chaos. So my plans would be, okay, well, every day that when I've done my first act of Thaumaturgy and I get 20 to 25 Gleaming Transmutation, I'm going to go ahead and maybe do one, right? One kind. And you'll see we get 24 Gleaming Transmutation here. This will be more or less depending on how many skill points you have and everything like that. And the other materials you get are obviously good too. But we're really looking for the Gleaming Transmutation because, one, if it's worth it for the Blasphemite, or two, if the Blasphemites get too much competition or they're not as good, you'll be able to do Gleaming Chaos and use your materials here. You can see that the Blasphemite is using about 80, and the daily act of Thaumaturgy gives about 20 to 25 of these Gleaming Transmutation, and you can see that one transmute gave us 24 as well, so it's about the same, which means with the cooldowns that we have, you can probably expect, if you log in every day, one act of Thaumaturgy, then every 4 days you'll be able to make a Blasphemite. But you obviously don't want to be just wasting your transmute, so you have to make sure that you're always, accruing a new stack. So if this is at 8 out of 8 or whatever, however many you have, depending on how far you're into the profession, you want to have that always working on getting the next one. So if you know that you have something coming up or you just want to make sure that it's used, you can just say, okay, I'm going to craft 2 or 3 or whatever, and you'll be able to stack up your Gleaming Transmutation that way. And that will increase how fast you can make your Blasphemite. And again, if you're not really super interested in Blasphemite, which is, for me as well, there might be a lot of competition on this, you'll be able to go for Gleaming Chaos, which you'll get along the way as well. And just to show you guys some of the materials that you'll be able to get here, I'm just going to go ahead and vendor all the ones that we got from everything else. You can take, and this is only 40, right? For Blasphemite, you're using 80, and you're only using half of that for Gleaming Chaos. So you could technically go ahead and say, okay, well, this random assortment of materials, maybe, depending on how lucky you get, because this will actually give you almost every single material that exists. Not all of them. Some intermediate crafts and things like that from professions you won't be able to get. And some very specialized ones. But you can see here we get Sunless Carapace, some skinning stuff. We get Null Stones from mining, Viridescent Spores, which is also from Herbalism. So things like that you'll be able to get from Gleaming Chaos. And this is the same cooldown as all of your other ones. But the thing is, if you're going for Blasphemite, if you're not, like, even if you are going for Blasphemite, then you're obviously using your Gleaming Transmutation here. But in case you're not, you can use it on Gleaming Chaos to use some of your byproduct. And you want to make sure that you think about this, because all the other transmutes will only use the green versions, right? The volatiles, the mercurial, and the ominous. And some of these are very good too, but they're very specialized for what they give you. And they'll actually show you and somewhat tell you. You can see this one, mercurial herbs, which is going to give you herbs. And blessings, again, I can craft one of these to show you guys. This will give you things that are related to that. You see blessing blossom, right? So it's very much in the name for what they'll give you. Volatile stone here. You'll see volatile weaving. So this is going to be tailoring materials, and this is going to be related to like mining stuff. So if you want to go more specific towards professions, you can do that. But for me personally, I think it's going to be best to go for either Blasphemite or Gleaming Chaos. But you're still going to be getting the other transmutes. So in case you don't have enough Gleaming transmutes and you're about to be maxed out on your crafts here, you want to use one of the other ones. And depending on the prices on the auction house, this might obviously change. But that's my plans. That is currently my plans. As for everything that impacts that particular style, you'll never use Fantastic Flasks, and you'll never use Potent Potions. Alchemical Mastery and everything like that is the only thing that uses anything. A lot of these like secondary subspecializations under Alchemical Mastery is mostly experiments, and it's you can see here multicraft, the potion flask, and fire recipes. So this doesn't really have a lot to do with Thaumaturgy. So mostly the only thing you care about is the Alchemical Mastery and then this entire tree. And then you're mostly good if you like the kind of, what do you call it, the kind of profession used, the kind of gold making that we've been talking about here. But that's my plans for my alt army, at least for alchemy. I have more plans, so there's going to be more videos for other professions. I hope this made sense. I know I yapped a lot, but if you guys made it all the way to this point in the video, make sure that you type, let's see, what should you type in the description? You should type Blasphemite. It's right here, Blasphemite. Type that down in the comments below so I know that you watched all the way to this point. If you have any questions or anything that you might want to see, make sure that you drop that down in the comments below. But that is going to be everything that I had for today. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you on the next one.